Memphis is the home of the blues, rock and roll, and Earl Farrell.
From the Collierville Square to the mighty Mississippi, the Earl Farrell for Memphis show is all about good things that happen across the Bluff City and the people who make Memphis cool.
The Earl Farrell for Memphis show is made possible by our title sponsor, Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and by Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm Insurance.
Plus, Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. Also by Dive Shop and Dive Ventures nationwide. Jim Karras Chevrolet with George Gully. Napa Cafe Memphis and Glenda Hastings. Phoenix Unequaled Home Entertainment. For Memphis Magazine. The Live at the Garden Concert Series. And the Orpheum Theater Group Memphis. Thank you to all the sponsors for making this possible.
And now, coming to you from Lansky Brothers, Clothier to the King, inside the world-famous Peabody Hotel, with the heart of a cowboy and Memphis in his soul. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your host, Earl Farrell.
And thank you very much, and welcome aboard on this rather warm summer day in Memphis, Tennessee. It can't go without saying that this is a sad day for Memphis and the world, really. We lost Fred Smith over the weekend. I had the pleasure to have worked with Fred, trying to get an NFL team brought to Memphis, and was very blessed to have spent some time with him and get to know him, and truly a remarkable individual. And he certainly left his mark on Memphis and the world. I was telling Kathy, my wife, on the way downtown today that there's not anybody who was not touched by Fred Smith, because who has not received a FedEx envelope, a FedEx package everywhere in the world. And what a impact he has had on the business world, on communications, on travel. In fact, that's one reason I invited Steve Williford, who's an author, and he's written books for a number of different people over the years, 15 million copies sold. He wrote speeches for Fred Smith starting about 1980. They shared many adventures together through the years and still worked on projects right up until Fred passed away. In fact, Stevie said you had lunch with him about a month ago.
That's right, I did.
It's kind of just a little closer to the mic there.
Okay.
He is, in fact, I've had you on my show before talking about, you did a book on our good friend at the donut shop, and you've done another one that was written about Fred's commanding officer in Vietnam, and just had finished that this year.
Right, Haywood Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, this is a copy of the book. Beth, you want me to hold on that camera, or this one? All right. There we go. There you go. And Fred wanted this written about it because he had so much respect for his commanding officer, who was also a Marine.
He was a Marine. He was a colonel, and he was Fred's commanding officer.
And what a life! I mean, I'm looking at pictures. He grew up in Memphis as well, and was a lifeguard at Maywood.
He was. He's colorful. He still is. He's a colorful character.
In fact, he's 95 now.
95, yeah.
And you were at some function, or the story was related to you that it was something for Fred, and the waiter came up, was rude to him. He kind of read the waiter the riot act.
Haywood?
Yeah.
More than once. He was playing poker one night. Is my mic on okay?
You're
okay,
good.
Just checking, just making sure. He was playing poker one night, and one of the fellas came and was making fun of the Marines, saying, "You make a lot of this stuff up. Nothing bad happened in Vietnam." Well, Haywood was the commanding officer of Marble Mountain, which was a very large Marine base there, full of helicopters, and he had to go home to the parents to express his sympathy for their sons who were pilots who died. Haywood didn't take kindly to that, and the fellow kept on, and Haywood said, "Hey, come here," and he boom. And he just laid out flat on the floor, and the other guy said, "What do we do?" He said, "I don't know, whose deal is it?"
Well, Fred, and a lot of people don't know this. I knew he was in the Marines, but I always thought that he was a pilot because he started FedEx.
Yeah.
And he later became, I guess, a pilot.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah.
But he was an infantry guy. He was on the ground. He was right there with it. And you said did logistics and
he got shot
twice. He said,
yeah,
right?
Yeah. He got shot. They had sounded kind of as he explained it to me, a retreat, and that he was in the process of backing up, and he got shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he never talked about any of that.
Never talked about his 2 Purple Hearts.
No. In all the years you worked, how did you meet Fred in the first place to have him hire you to do speeches?
Well, I was actually a youth minister at a church, and my wife informed me that when we had children, we were going to live on Skid Row. We just didn't have enough money, and so I had written a lot of speeches for Zig Ziglar.
Sure.
And he was just a mentor to me, and so I just wrote Fred an unsolicited letter and said, I'm Steve. My wife says we're going to starve to death. Could I write speeches for you? And June Fitzgerald, his secretary, called me and said, Mr. Smith wants to meet with you.
Wow.
And I went up. At that time, it was one of the first buildings. It looked like I think they called it the Kodachrome building. It was just glass all over. And we hit it off, and I wrote speeches for him ever since.
When you first met him, because you said it was unsolicited, so
yeah,
did people just not do that kind of stuff with Fred? But what made him say?
He was very polite, and he said, I know Zig, and if you wrote for Zig, you're okay with me. And he said, I guess you're wondering why somebody with 35,000 employees, which is what he had at that point, needs somebody. He said, I want you to tell me without thinking that I can fire you. And I didn't know if I liked that or not. But anyway, that's what he said. And immediately, at that time, FedEx was trying to get into countries. And so I was writing speeches. One of the first ones I wrote was maybe one of the largest. It was for China. And FedEx needed to get into China. And so I wrote the proposal, or at least the speech part of the proposal. And they translated it into different languages. I'd write for the UN. And he was demanding, but he was fair, and he was always courteous.
Very polite every time I was ever around him. I remember we were trying to get an NFL team in Chicago at the very first meeting, and here all the owners of the NFL were on an elevator. We're going down to where the meeting room was, and I guess I looked kind of apprehensive because he goes, Earl, is something wrong? You look concerned. I said, well, Fred, these guys are big. He goes, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. I said, I don't think I quite do that the way you guys do. But, I know where you're going with that. But he was right. I mean, he said they're just people. They've been very successful, but they make mistakes, and they've had victories. Some of them have never won, but they're all NFL owners. But he said, we're going in just to make a pitch. And he said, you've been on plenty of pitches, and it's just the subject is a little different this time. But he was always very considerate. He
was a mentor to me, and he would always tell me what I needed to improve. He didn't like it when I did that to him.
He didn't like criticism at all?
Oh, he didn't like my suggestions. and so he was going down, I won't name the country, but he was going down somewhere in Central or South America and to make a speech. And I wrote it for him. I said, we really need to practice this because it's got some new stuff in here. And he said, you don't understand. I speak every day. I don't need to practice. And I said, yes, sir. So I didn't go with him, but when he came back, he gave me the tape, and I listened to it. And he said, well, what'd you think? See, I didn't need to practice. I said, it sounded good. The only problem is you named the president of that country. His name is Jose, and you called him Josie.
Like outlaw Josie Wells?
He didn't like that either.
The last speech I heard him make was to the Heart Association gala over here at the convention center. And during the course of the speech, he came across a word of the speech that he said, and he said it, and then he stopped and he said, that's not a word I used. Who wrote this speech? I'm a very plain-spoken person. I'm just a Marine running a company, and I don't use words like that. And you said he even mentioned that to you.
Oh, many times he would say that. Probably why he liked my speeches, because they were simple. And just to give you an idea, the last time that I ate with him was with Haywood. We were up in Fred's office, and when he did, he paid for half of the World War II monument, a memorial in Washington.
Really?
Yeah, he paid for half of it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and so he wanted my father to go up because my father was in World War II, but was in a division where he stayed outside the entire war. He lived in a foxhole, and so Fred knew about that. He wanted him to come, and Daddy was kind of sick, and so he didn't make it. But he did get him to come to AutoZone, and so he really laid everything out for him. Well, so the years go by, and I'm meeting with him last month, and Fred said, "Did your father ever get the present that I gave to all of the troops in Washington?" He remembered that, and I said, "No, sir." And he left, and he came back, and it was made by Tiffany. His little, I don't know, just looked like a little bowl, but it had World War II memorial on it. It was
wow.
But that's how thoughtful Fred was. He cared. He cared about the FedEx Forum, but he cared about my father too.
Well, and I saw him do that plenty of times. He was somebody that actually spoke to people when he talk to them, and he looked them in the eye, and they had a conversation. It wasn't just how are you, nice to see you, keep moving. He stopped, and in fact, the last time I saw him was after the speech that night. Everybody's out in the lobby and shaking hands and wanting to meet him and talk to him. I said, I'm not going to bother him. He's got so many people wanting to come up and shake his hand and talk to him. But he was very patient with people and would stop and do that. And I saw somebody had put up a thing where he was on a podcast twice, on a local podcast. And I just had Jack Sammons on about 3 weeks ago, who's related to Fred. He's married to Fred's brother's daughter. And I said, I got to get you to help me get Fred on. I wish I'd had, because he was just an incredible person.
And a great sense of humor.
Yeah, very dry.
This book, I wrote the book for Gibson's Donuts.
Right.
And so I won't read it, but I'll tell you real quickly that he said and I interviewed Fred for the Gibson's book because he's one of the regular customers. Every Sunday he walked in and he ordered donuts for his grandchildren because they spent the night on Saturday night. He said, I wasn't the chairman of FedEx.
You were granddaddy.
I was the granddad that brought the donuts. And he said, but Don made such a big deal. Folks, Fred Smith is in the house. How about a hand for Fred Smith? Get your picture made with Fred. He said, so I would go in disguise on Sunday morning. I said, what kind of disguise? He said, I'd wear a big hat and I'd wear sunglasses. He said, I didn't do it for the other people. I did it for Don.
Yeah.
And he said, I would wait till Don went back in the kitchen, and then I'd try to order. And that's, I mean, to me, that's just funny, just picturing Fred.
Yeah, in a disguise.
I know.
He also used to go buy tamales at this Mexican restaurant on Knight Arnold near Winchester.
Huh.
And because I knew the guy that ran the place.
Okay.
And he said, yes, Senor Smith comes in once a week, 24 tamales. But he would always come by himself, And tell the story about where you were at the quad at the FedEx headquarters.
Yeah. So I was writing a speech for Fred, and we had to, the international headquarters is at Hex Cross in Winchester. So we were walking through the quad, which is 4 buildings, obviously. And so the quad was a great place for security to stand up at the top. And there was some kind of a security alert. And so as Fred and I were walking across the Commons area, I looked up and I said, Fred, there's somebody with a sniper rifle, and he's looking at us. And he just looked at me and said, he's not looking at me.
He's looking at you.
He's looking at you, friend.
Don't make any quick moves.
Yeah. So that happened a time or two. But I was kind of like you. When I would go on a trip with him, my job was not to encourage him on the speech. It was to carry stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And so sometimes we would have computers. Sometimes we'd have these kind of modern slide projectors. And it was I sat next to him or close to the stage in case anything broke. I could manually trip whatever it was. That's the only reason I went.
Well, that's how I got to go. I was at Walker Associates, and we were helping with a presentation, wrote it, and put it on these slides.
Yeah.
But that was for PowerPoint, so I was running a slide projector. And I think they wanted me there, so if something went wrong, they could blame me and yell at me. But I was good with it because, hey, I got to hang out with these incredible guys. But it was one of the trips we're coming back. We flew back in from Chicago, landed at General Aviation, and they brought Fred's cart, and he wore black suits and white shirts and ties and black shoes. That's what he wore. I mean, never anything really fancy or flashy. His car was a Ford Explorer, and they pulled his car around. It was a brand new Ford Explorer, and it was when they first had those toggle handles. So one way the window would open, the other way the door would open. And Pepper Rogers and I, Pepper was one of his best friends, and we're both standing there looking at it. Fred comes in and goes, "What's the problem?" I said, "Well, we're looking at this handle trying to figure it out." He goes, "If you guys can't figure out how to get in my car, we ain't never getting an NFL team." And he was right. I think Pepper and I were the weak links in that whole plan. But he had a great sense of humor. You said to me this morning we were talking that you all he asked you, tell him about who has the most airplanes and what you were thinking, how he would make you feel like.
So this guy Haywood Smith, I was looking for his picture, but Haywood was the Fred's commanding officer, and so Fred bought a ton of books so that he could give them to FedEx employees and other people too, and he wanted the colonel to go on Fox News with Brett Baer. And he told us at that meal, he said, "I've got you. You're going to speak at Fox News, then we're going to have you on Fox and Friends, and then there's a 4-star colonel, Army general I want you to talk to also." Mistakenly, I said, "Fred, that's all well and good, but you know the colonel's pretty old. He's older than Earl Farrell." I mean, he's
hard to believe.
Yeah, I know.
But true.
I know. But so he's a colonel. He's not used to people telling him what to do. And I said, "We're going to have to change planes, and it's just not going to be a pretty picture." And he said, "Steve, got a question for you." And I thought, "Oh,
I can hear him saying that. I got a question."
I knew
for
it was over. and I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "In your opinion, who owns the most planes in the United States?" I said, "I'm guessing you." And he just kind of gave me that look, and he said, "So I'm going to talk, and I'm going to talk real slow, but let's see if you get it. You're going to meet us at General Aviation. You'll be picked up by a corporate jet, and we'll take you to LaGuardia. And the security team will pick you up, and they'll take you to Fox Plaza, where you'll do your interviews. They'll take you back to the airport, and then you'll come back to General Aviation. You'll be home by 2:00. Is there anything," very slowly, "about that you don't understand?" So, I've told you, I always felt like he ended his sentences and could have always added, "You idiot." But I'm not making fun of him because I love Fred, and he was as kind to me as he was to anybody else, and I have nothing but the utmost respect. But I love the fact that he could laugh, and even if it was at my expense.
It was a good storyteller.
Oh, yeah.
Very good. He told me about the time that he flew Elvis to Nashville because he had an eye infection. And they said, "You need to get to a doctor at Vanderbilt, like, today." And Elvis had promised never to fly again, promised his mother that. Because of all the artists who went down, in plane crashes, Buddy Holly, just scores and scores of them. So he said, "I'll never fly." And they said, you better get there quick. And he said, well, the only guy I would trust flying me is Fred Smith. So he calls Fred. And Fred says, yeah, I'll fly you. So they go out there, and Elvis gets on board, and they take off, and they fly. And after he gets whatever they did to his eyes, and they're flying back, and he goes, so this is a safe plane. It's the safest plane out there, a Citation jet. And he said, that's what all the jets I started with, was the Citation.
Yeah.
And so that's the first jet that Elvis bought. The first Lisa Marie was a Citation.
I didn't know that.
That's parked out there near the big 727.
Really? Okay.
And that was what Elvis started flying again because of Fred Smith. And I think as more and more stories come out after his passing, sadly, this past Saturday, that you will find out more and more how he touched people over the years.
Yeah.
And they were everywhere. And it wasn't all big, famous people. It was just people.
Yeah. Yeah. He was like that. He was very humble. Over the last 48 hours, I've received so many emails from folks telling me their stories. And he loved to do things to surprise people. Not too long ago, a group of Marines, officers, had I was told this last night, had a get-together at the Hunt and Polo Club. And Fred showed up. Surprise. And they said, Mr. Smith, Captain Smith. And he said, I'm a Marine, aren't I? Can I not come?
Can I not come to this?
Yeah. And he loved that kind of thing. Just he didn't want any hoop. He just wanted to be there. And the Marines were, that was something that he held to the highest degree.
Absolutely. I mean, he and all Marines are Marines for the rest of their lives. You may not be active, but you're still a Marine.
Now, what Haywood would say, Colonel Smith, is he might be the richest man that we know, but he never paid for a meal.
Because everybody wanted to buy his dinner.
Well, or he wouldn't have it. He just wouldn't have it. He wouldn't have the money. I forgot my billfold. Can you cover me this time?
He and Diane, his wife, and kids would come in to sleep out Louis, this bar I had just down the street from the Peabody here on Union. And they would always call, Diane would call and say, hey, we're headed your way. Can we come through the back door off the alley so we don't make a big fuss, And I said, not a problem. And we went the booth in the back so nobody knows we're there. We just come in. We love your food. You always treat us great.
Yeah.
And but Fred would never tip more than 10%. And so Diane would leave a $100 bill under her plate. Fred would leave $20 on his. And she said, I take care of him wherever we go. He undertips, I overtip. So it all works out.
It was just, that was the joke. And George Bryan used to say, the man has more money than I would ever could think of, and yet
frugal.
He never has any money with him.
George Bryan, another wonderful guy, Old Waverly, and Bryan Foods, and I knew they were good friends.
They were
very similar type of personalities.
Yeah. They matter of fact, George pulled the ultimate joke on a lot of those guys when he invited them to his place. Where was it?
Old Waverly?
No, I mean Montana. Yeah.
Oh, it was in Park City,
Utah. Yeah. And he said, now I've got something for you. It's a big surprise. And Willie Robertson walked in from Duck Dynasty.
Sure.
And Don DeWeese and everybody just took pictures and pictures. Colonel Haywood Smith was there too. Well, they started sending those pictures out to all of their friends. And Don said, later that night, people started saying, are you sure that's Willie? He had brought in an imposter.
A ringer.
and fooled everybody.
Well, Fred ended up buying a place there in Park Cities, up on top of a mountain, yeah. And I forget who owned it, but they had gone through some tough times, so he got it for like $8 or $9 million. It's probably worth $30 million, $40 million, yeah, especially there. But I think everywhere he went, he loved to be just a regular person. And so he would show up at places, and just because they wanted to go, Diane wanted to go, he wanted to go. We had some friends from Texas come in with my sister, and this was the head legal counsel for this big bank that she worked for in Texas.
Okay.
He wanted to come tour Graceland and see all the stuff. And so we went to Graceland, we went to Sun Studios, Then went to B.B. King's at Abena, had dinner, and came downstairs to hear the band after the thing.
Man.
We're standing there, and the leader of the band at B.B. King says, "Oh, we've got a celebrity here with us tonight, and do y'all want a special table? Do you need some champagne?" And we're looking around. He's talking to this guy that we brought in. I said, "He thinks he's somebody else. I wonder who he thinks he is." Then I started looking at him. I said, "He thinks he's Fred Smith," because he had white hair and very similar looks. And so I was... And we went the whole night, and everybody said hi, and they all applauded when they put the spotlight on him. And he didn't know what was going on. I get out, and I said, "They thought you were Fred Smith." He said, "Maybe we should have bought something." I said, "Well, I think they would have sold it to us."
Well,
and then I saw Fred and his brother at the Forest Hill Irene Malco Theater. We were going in. They were going in.
Really?
And I said, "Hey, Fred," and he said, "Hey," I'd never met his brother before. He said, and I said, told him the story, and he said, "Did you charge anything on me?" And I said, "No, but we thought about it later."
A lot. Do you remember Zap Mail?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Zap Mail was doing okay, and as you know, one of the things that they did was to launch a satellite, and the satellite blew up.
Wow.
And because the satellite blew up, that was FedEx's satellite, and that's what Zap Mail was going to depend on. As I understand it, I'm sure that's a layman's way of saying that. So Zap Mail pretty much went bankrupt.
And they had all these locations all over the United States.
Oh yeah.
And ready to go, just waiting on the launch of that satellite.
Yeah, and they were working, but not as well as, I mean, he had global visions. So, as you might remember, 2,000 people were out of a job or so.
Boom, just like that.
And so, Fred, I had just written a speech for Fred for the graduation of Rhodes College at their commencement service. And so, we're kind of talking it over, and he said, I want to throw in, I think this would be a good time to announce that we're discontinuing Zap Mail. I said, during a graduation speech? He said, we just need to get it over. I said, you're kidding. He wasn't.
We're going to piggyback on this.
Yeah. I mean, he said, it's really good. Glad you graduated. And by the way, we're closing Zap Mail. And I had to kind of squeeze that in. But I thought, okay, I'm going to see if I can squeeze this one in. And he actually read it. He said, so we're closing. Nobody's going to lose their job. We're going to reposition you someplace else. And that means that we've got maybe 10,000 of these machines. And right now, I need somebody to step up and be willing to store them somewhere. Diane wants me to get them out of our garage. And I just left it at that.
But that's his sense of humor.
That was his sense of humor, and it was his sense of loyalty that nobody got fired.
Yeah. What went through your mind Saturday when how did you find out about it?
Haywood actually sent me a message, and Bill Catlett almost the same time. Bill was the director of personnel for FedEx for some time and was a right-hand man, somebody you need to talk to also. Mm-hmm. And they both texted me, and I mean, the world stopped for me. Fred was, he's been a big part of my life for 40 years. And to the very end, I would be able to call him, and if he could, he would say yes. And since he could say yes to just about everything, he said yes, but I didn't ask him much.
I did hear the guy we met, the new CFO, last year, this time, because it was the first concert at Live at the Garden. He sat at our table, he and his wife, and he had just been hired to come down from New York. He had run an airlines up there. And I said, so how did you get hired? He said, Fred actually called me himself. He said, we were happy where we were. And he said, Fred called him and goes, how you doing? This is Fred, and we need you down here. And he said, how do you say no to Fred Smith?
No, the heart was so big. And what folks don't realize was that Fred had finally said we were going to start his book.
Wow.
Yeah. He had put it off at COVID, and he'd put it off for a kind of a FedEx business issue, and that took 2 years. And he told me when we were eating the other day that I need to go ahead and do the book.
Well, I think you still should, because it needs to be told, and you're the perfect person to tell it.
Well, I think the world could take the example of his heart. He didn't care how much money you had, if he wanted to know what your character was like.
Yeah. And that's why he was such an example, because his character was impeccable.
You want me to tell another story?
We got time for one more.
Okay. So, Fred, well, there was a courier that was out several years ago, and it was swamped. It was the end of the day, and somebody had a package, and he just didn't have time to go pick it up. Well, his boss heard about it, and he asked the courier, "Hey, why didn't you pick their package up?" And he said, "Well, because I was busy. It was the end of the day. I needed to get back. I was tired, and I mean, it was just a package." Fred heard about it and called this guy in. He said, Tell me about not picking up the package."
Did you start off with, "I want to ask you a question"?
Pretty much, yeah. It could have been that same thing. And so the fellow told him the story, and Fred said, "So you didn't pick the package up because you were tired?" He said, "Yeah." And he said, "And it just cost $25. I'll pay the $25. He said, "Okay." Well, I did a little checking this morning on this company, and this company revenue, it's about $100,000 a year that we get from them.
Just shipping packages.
And they've been with us about 10 years. So they called me this morning and said they're thinking about changing customers. Are you willing to pay $1 million for that? And the guy said, "I think I see your point." But he was good at driving home. He didn't fire him.
Did he make him repeat, and listen very carefully, deliver the packages?
Whether you're tired or not, whether you're in a bad mood.
Well,
yeah.
He was an incredible presence in the city and around the world, and he will be missed.
He truly was the architect for this city in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. Steve Williford, how can they get a hold of you to look at your books? You got a website?
Yeah, Stephen with a PH, StephenWilliford.org.
There you are. Well, thank you for coming on.
Oh, thank you, Earl. I just think the world of you.
Well, I think all of you, you've done some good stuff and continue to do something. I say press on with the Fred book, though.
Oh.
I think we'd all like to read more about Fred.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Dawn Grader, President and CEO of Southern Security Federal Credit Union. We're the proud title sponsor of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show. Coming to you live from Lansky's in the world-famous Peabody Hotel and celebrating all of the great things about our great city, Memphis, Tennessee.
Hi, I'm Glenda Hastings, owner of Napa Cafe, and I'm so proud to be part of the Earl Farrell for Memphis show, streaming live from Lansky's from the Peabody. We will be showcasing not only Napa Cafe, but some great restaurants around town. We look forward to seeing you.
Hi, everyone. It's Diane Kimbrough, Lady Di, your insurance PI. And I'm here to tell you about the new podcast that Earl Farrell from Memphis is doing. And we're doing it downtown live from the Peabody, which is behind me and next to the Rendezvous. And we're going to be talking all things Memphis, but we're also going to be talking about health insurance because that applies to everyone. And I can help you in every area. So I look forward for you listening to us and learning more about what we can do for you in Memphis and how I can help you with your health.
Hello, Memphis Mid-South. And first, I'd like to thank you for visiting with Earl Farrell Memphis today. And we want to support him just like you do. I'm George Gully, one of the sales managers at Jim Carey Chevrolet. We've been in business here in Memphis for over 75 years. I've been associated with the company for almost 25. And I'll help you find the right car, truck, or SUV here at not only our Chevy store, but also Buick, GMC, Nissan, Subaru. We can help you find that right car. Keep watching, Earl, and come see me. Thanks so much.
Hi, I'm Kathy Thurman Edwards, State Farm, and I'm so excited to be one of the sponsors for the Earl Farrell from Memphis show, broadcasting live from Lansky's at the Peabody. And I'll tell you all about what we've got going on at our office. Gift cards for quotes. No purchase necessary. I'm better looking than a lizard.
Hi, this is Randy Wright from the Dive Shop and Dive Ventures in Memphis. We've been in Memphis over 64 years teaching people to dive, snorkel, and swim. We'd love to have you come join us and have some fun. We're also a part of the Dive Ventures group with 18 locations across the country, stretched from Phoenix to Vienna, Virginia. Please give us a call. We'll be able to take care of you at 999 South Yates in Memphis, or call us at 901-763-DIVE.
Hi, I'm Brett Batterson, President and CEO of the Orpheum Theater Group in downtown Memphis. We are so pleased with our partnership with the Earl Farrell Show and very happy that he is broadcasting live from Lansky's at the historic Peabody Hotel. We're all here to make Memphis better.
Hi, my name is Jameson Todd, and I'm the director of Live at the Garden and the Radiance Amphitheater. And we're so excited for our 25th year of Live at the Garden here at the Memphis Botanic Garden. We've got a great lineup for you this season, so come on out.
Hi, I'm Olivia Wall, Director of Marketing and Communications for Memphis Botanic Garden and Live at the Garden. We've had Earl Farrell right along the way for the past 25 years, and we can't wait to talk more about the season this summer at the Earl Farrell for Memphis show.
So come out to Live at the Garden. Our first show is on June 21st.
Hi, my name is Scott Fueling. I'm president of Phoenix Communications here in Memphis. I'm really proud to support Earl Farrell's show, as is everybody else on the team. We love Memphis, and we love doing things to promote Memphis, and we can't wait for this to get started.
And welcome back here live from Lansky's, closer to the King. Joining me now are the Dankos, Cookie Canuck, a world-famous restaurant right across the street from the world-famous Peabody Hotel, world-famous Lansky's Brothers, closer to the King, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. We're glad to be here.
Yeah, great to be here. And I don't think Hal has ever opened his shop quite this way to us before. This is kind of nice. I feel like I should be having lunch at his table here.
Isn't it a great table? This used to be a Cadillac. And, in fact, the emblem is over here that was on the trunk. And the benches, everything was a Cadillac.
I love it.
And it's pink and black, Elvis's colors, and inspired by Lansky's. But I remember when you guys first opened, I'm thinking, where did they come up with the name of that? And then I found out you were from Canada. And I actually lived in Canada for 2 years growing up. And I'm born and raised in Texas, but went there. My dad built a pipeline from Empress, Alberta to Winnipeg, Manitoba. And we found out that in Canada, winter comes early and it stays late.
It does.
It's like bad relatives. It just doesn't leave.
and Winnipeg has to be one of the coldest places year-round in Canada. Period.
Yeah, but you grew up in Quebec, which is very European, very Parisian.
Yeah, it's definitely got a European feel to it, for sure.
How did you end up in Memphis?
Hard Rock Cafe.
Really?
Yeah, I picked up a phone one day. I was visiting Lana, and my boss said Memphis, and I said, hey, let me get back to you, and here we are in Memphis 25 years later.
You obviously saw something here that you liked. I mean, I'm from Texas. I moved here in 1978, and immediately when I came here, the people here are really unique to Memphis. And it became apparent to me early on, because I didn't know a living, breathing soul when I came here. And after meeting a few, and I was fortunate, I lived downtown and under John and Pat Tiger's penthouse apartment. So I met all these people immediately through them. And then as I kept, including Fred Smith, I met everybody in the first year I was here. And one thing I quickly discovered, though, it wouldn't matter whether you're mayor or you're the guy filling up your car at the gas station, which nobody does anymore. But if they like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they just don't come around.
Well, that's very true. And I think that's what both of us found appealing to Memphis, is that if you embrace Memphis, Memphis embraces you. Also, Memphis happens to be a very accessible city that if you choose to participate in this city, it allows you to participate. The barriers of gaining access to people, whether it's city leaders or politicians, is really non-existent, and that was a very appealing thing for myself and for Lana as well.
It's like Fred. He was very approachable people here. I mean, nobody really acts like there's some big deal, and if they do, they become one of those people nobody hangs around. Mm-hmm. Are you from here, Lana?
No, I'm from Illinois, but we met in Mexico and made our way to Memphis, Tennessee.
So by way of Mexico.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the running joke is we were working on the North American Free Trade Agreement. So
if people believe us, we're like, oh, yeah.
Oh, really?
So now we have to keep rolling with it. It's like it's been going. We've been saying this for 25 years. But.
Peacekeepers around the world. And, so the idea for the Canuck, the Cookie Canuck, was what? You wanted something unique, kind of to your backgrounds?
Yeah. The menu, the name I'll let Lana speak to, but, the menu was just accessible to everybody, that it didn't preclude any particular category, that it was fun
Mass
for
appeal.
families. Mass appeal. And it definitely had to have a Canadian flair, because that's where my background is. And then we've incorporated some Southern touches as well over the years. So it's that Southern-inspired Canadian twist menu that we've grown to love over 20 years.
But it's also you two. I mean, I used to do a show called My Favorite Restaurant, and what I quickly learned was a place really reflects the owner's personality. And I walk in some restaurants, I'm sure you do too, and it's a flatliner. There's no personality, there's no energy, it's just laying there. And then you've always brought a lot of life. You're great at marketing. You're great at coming up with unique ideas on how to make your place different. And then the huge hamburger, the 4-pound hamburger, my son and all his pals have tried to eat it. I mean, what a great idea. And what amazes me is what it takes 60 minutes to eat one.
Correct. It's 1 hour.
Then
1 hour time.
Then it's free. You're dead, but it's free.
Yeah, I would argue that it's free, and it's not free in any shape or form, whether it's monetarily or physically.
But the fact that the winner did it in 4.5 minutes is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, Lana was there that night.
We were both there, yeah. Matt Stoney, he's still competing. Actually, he's kind of went off the competing circuit, and he's made it so big on YouTube that he's not traveling as much with the competitors across the world. But yeah, he was there, small, young man.
Probably skinny, too.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Tiny little guy. And I actually ran into the restroom to go to the bathroom. I came back, and it was gone.
It was over.
And I'm like, I missed the whole thing. But, yeah. It was quick.
Certainly glad I didn't choose that as a career path, because now I'm trying not to eat as much as to fill up with. But you also have been very involved in the community, and you're on 9 boards, Shawn.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So from a board service standpoint, I sit on a lot of different boards, but I think it really goes back to when we first arrived in Memphis, and busy in the restaurant business that I was, and Lana really got attached to PALS, Port of Leith. I guess that was a fundraising group.
Yeah, it was Port of Leith Children's Home at the time.
Sure.
When we first moved here. We didn't know a soul. And I was in radio advertising, and he was working for Hard Rock. And a girl I worked with at the radio station said, you need to join PALS. We throw parties to raise money for Port of Leith Children's Home. I'm like, how awesome is that? I'm in. And so it started from there, and then we moved to the helping with the Blues Ball every year with Pat Tigert. Yeah. It was right out of the gate, just getting involved as quickly as we could. We didn't know a soul either. We had no family here. And I think that was where Shawn said, is if you embrace Memphis, they embrace you back. The Southern hospitality is true.
It is.
We've witnessed it. We see it every day still. We've been big advocates of people when they ask about Memphis. We used to get mad back in the 25 years ago when people would speak badly about Memphis, and I'm like, well, why are you still here? Why don't you just leave? Because we couldn't understand that. Why would you stay?
Let me invite you to leave.
Yeah. So.
I saw the picture of you, and I was pulling some photographs for the promo, and you were mourning the passing of Silky Sullivan, who was probably one of the biggest ambassadors and biggest supporters of Memphis that there's ever been. Personally took barbecue to Ireland and showed them how they used to think that you just burned pig meat and then poured ketchup on it. That was barbecue. They didn't even know what charcoal was,
True enough.
And he took. Yeah. No, actually.
Oh, no, that's not Silky.
No, that's definitely not Silky.
That is the band that
Silky was much better looking than that.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
I don't know if I said that picture to you.
Yeah.
You didn't.
That was who started
mind.
that? Who was in that
Emerson,
picture?
Guinness. It was
Guinness.
Guinness,
Yeah.
the Guinness factory.
Guinness family.
No, Silky was a great man, and I owe a lot to Silky and John Elkington
and
and
four.
well, the names elude me, but all the guys, all the legends on Beale Street, I really thank them a lot. They really helped me into Memphis and allowed me to understand what the city was about and be a part of it. And I'm very thankful for that group, and Silky was certainly a role model for me.
Well, Herbie O'Mel.
Herbie
O'Mel,
too. Yeah, Bud Chittum, Herbie O'Mel.
And his son now is doing something with bands and all in concerts. I think he's in Nashville now, but a very nice young man. I had Sleep Out Louie's downtown for a while, and what I thought was, before I got in the restaurant business in Memphis, I thought everybody was your competitor, and they wouldn't help you under any condition. They wouldn't tell you how to survive a bad spell of something or how to get around this. The absolute opposite is true. You're in the restaurant business in Memphis. It's like you're in Vietnam together, and you're in the trenches, and you go, I ran out of oysters. They said, we're sending a bag over now. And is that what you found to be true as well?
Absolutely. I mean, everybody helps each other in this industry within Memphis. You're only an outsider if you want to be, and if somebody needs help, there's no shortage of people that are willing to embrace and willing to help put a helping hand out. So, yeah, Memphis is a great restaurant community.
Well, one of the things I love about both of you, and I called you a power couple in the promo today, and you really are, because you're always together, and I think that's a very positive sign that you're not only work together, you go everywhere together, you're a team, and I think people admire that. And also, Lana, you're involved recently with a position. Before you were with the University of Memphis and Tiger Promotions, and you did everything from coordinate FedEx flights, doing flyovers.
That was great. Yeah, we did some flyovers over the Liberty Bowl, and probably 3 or 4 of them. Coordinated that with FedEx. That was amazing. The first time they had ever done it. So being a part of that was it was really, really cool. Staying up there and watching the plane and the timing we had to have to get that right, to fly over before the football game started. Those are some great memories.
Were you the one that said, go?
I was just sitting there. I didn't say a word. I let the pilots talk to each other, and they did everything.
I remember the last one I saw, they really banked it, put it on its wingtip, and flew around the Liberty Bowl. I was going, well, that is impressive. I thought he was going to roll it. He's going over.
Yeah.
But now recently you've come to join the Tennessee Tourism for the western part of the state, including Memphis. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
But I think the main reason they wanted you is because you guys are such big supporters of Memphis and tourism. I mean, it's not just your business. You really believe in Memphis and its future, and so do I, which is why we came downtown and I asked Hal, so what about doing a live video podcast from your store? He goes, great. No politics. I went, no.
Thank goodness.
Nothing negative. I said, no. But everybody we've had on is telling positive things about Memphis and what's good about it. And I think that there are so many things that's great about Memphis. And oftentimes it's the people that come from outside of Memphis that recognize it much more quickly than people who grew up here.
Yeah, Memphis has tremendous opportunity, and that's what attracted us most to Memphis, is that the opportunity within the city was huge, that you had the ability to do so much. It was a wide open game. This wasn't a New York, a Chicago, a Montreal, or a Toronto where the market was extremely tight. You had plenty of opportunity to do whatever it is you wanted to do, and the people were supportive of you. And it was a yes city versus a no city, and that was certainly one of the most appealing things.
Well, it is. You could go broke a lot faster in a big city than you can here.
Well, yeah, we said that too.
That is true. The affordability.
And you can stand out a little bit, more. We're still considered a large city, but not as big as a lot of those that he had mentioned. But you have an opportunity to make a name for yourself or make a difference in the city.
And very quickly.
I mean, if we look at the number of people that we've employed over 20 years and the families that we've helped buy homes, build their own families,
get their lives back together.
We work a lot with what's it called?
We work closely with the drug court here in Memphis, where there's some folks that are
second chance.
They've hit rock bottom and they need a helping hand to get them going, and we are very proud to be a part of those lives and see them change. And there's amazing stories that have come out of it.
And it really is. I know this. One of my main sponsors is Southern Security Federal Credit Union, and that's their whole thing. Is these aren't just people that come and put their money in our bank or take out a credit card. These are human beings, and they're now members of our credit union. And she tells a story about this guy that had done some time and got out and got a job with a company that hired ex-cons. And he said, I want to buy a house for my mother and me. He said, how can I do that? And so they laid out a list. You got to save this much money by next year at this time. And if you save that much money and do everything I tell you to, we'll get you a house. And they did it. And they sold that house and got a bigger house. And it is about helping other people. And I know that that's one reason you wanted to get involved with Tennessee tourism, because there are goals that need to be reached, and it's getting especially young people involved in it and find out you can make a difference. Let's all do it together. I mean, I had a meeting with Lyman Aldrich the other day. He's one of the founders of Memphis in May, and he's trying to put together some young people like y'all to help get behind that, because it was a great thing. It was great for the economy of Memphis. It was great for the river downtown, the river, and all that needs continually to be worked on. I mean, it's much better than it was when I moved here in '78. I mean, the Peabody was closed, the Orpheum was closed. In fact, Lyman told me they were showing X-rated movies at the Orpheum, if you believe that. But that's part of what your goals are. Tell us about those.
Yeah, with the Tennessee Department of Tourist Development, I'm the new West Tennessee Regional Manager, so there's 4 welcome centers in my region. And what we're charged with is we're the first face that people see when they're driving into Memphis, whether it's from Arkansas, Missouri, anywhere entering our state. And what we want them to feel is the biggest welcome. Be there for any information that they need. We had a guy last Friday. He pulled in and he had a flat tire on the back of his trailer he was hauling. And if I don't have an employee on staff that can help him right then and there, we have resources that we call to help them. You know, we want their first impression of Memphis to be like, wow, look at this. You know, welcome to Memphis when you walk in the door.
Well, if you've never been to the welcoming station downtown, it's right out in front of Bass Pro. And you have the most incredible statue of Elvis, which I went to Brandywine Valley in Pennsylvania when they were sculpting him, and actually they were still in the studio, and then they brought it back here, installed it by MLGW, but people kept stealing guitar strings and the fringe off his jacket, so they moved it inside the tourist center. And then they moved B.B. King in there. So
He's
the two best
too.
sculptors in Memphis, and they actually had a very good relationship, Elvis and B.B., and there they are again. So you should go down there and see that, if nothing else. It's also got a great view of the river.
And the best part is, and one reason why I was very interested in this position, being a business owner, a Memphian, we can help so many businesses and festivals get the word out about their products, their services, their events for nothing.
Yeah.
If they bring me brochures, we will put them out. I'll have the Welcome Center assistants pass the word on to the travelers, whether they're passing through or staying in Memphis. You know, our goal is to get the travelers or guests or Memphians or Tennesseans to stay one more night in the state of Tennessee, whether it's in Memphis, see one more attraction, go somewhere else in Tennessee and spend one more night, which represents $360 in revenue per person. And so we work with the Commissioner of Tennessee, and he's a big advocate of, you know, that's what we're going to do.
Yep.
And if we can get our comment cards as high as we can get them, and we do, the comment cards are always a 5, straight across the board, based on several different, you know, if you're helpful, you know, you're greeting the property, so we're maintaining the property, the facilities, 24 hours a day. So.
What are the comments you get? Because I know being here, we've been here several months now, and all these people that come in, because the store stays open while we're doing the show. And so people come up and stand there with their jaw and go, what are y'all doing? So we're having a little show. But they all love coming to Memphis. They have an absolute blast here, which is part of the positive side that doesn't make the news. I mean, they don't go around and interview happy people. I don't know what the problem with that is, but so that's what we're trying to do. That's what you're trying to do. And I think we continue to work on that. In fact, you guys come on anytime you want with events coming up for the summer. People that come to Memphis and some of their comments, what kind of comments do you get when people come by the Welcome Center?
Well, one is how clean the restrooms are, because that's really, a lot of them are stopping to go to the bathroom. The second is that our Welcome Center assistants are so helpful, whether it's finding out what to do in Memphis, what's going on, why we're here. Can you print off directions? You know, some people, believe it or not, do not use their cell phones for directions. So
how did they get here?
I don't know. They used a map,
lot of paper.
I think. But it's surprising. You think
Just write
everyone
that
would be
down for me.
digital, but there's a lot of people that are not 100% digital for different reasons. Just seeing the people come in and from all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm in there, out, if I walk out into the, there's 4 centers that I'm over for West Tennessee, people from all over the world coming in.
Well, I had Uncle Lou from Uncle Lou's Chicken on a couple of weeks ago, and I'll never forget going to that place the first time. He has a big world map. He used to have just the United States, but when he got on drive-ins, diners, and dives, he went worldwide, and now he's got those little push pins all over this worldwide map. And that's indicative of how Memphis is known around the world, not just for Elvis, but I think the food is one of the biggest draws. In fact, all these people that come to the Orpheum, and Brett Batterson talks about it, he said they want to come to Memphis because the food in Memphis is unlike any other place in the country they go.
The barbecue is unique. The dining experience in downtown Memphis is so it's mom and pop. There's not a barrage of brand names that you see across the country. So these are unique restaurants that have, you talk about legacy restaurants like the Arcade and like Rendezvous. I mean, these are just unheard of in so many cities. So when people come to Memphis, they are genuinely in awe of the fantastic cuisine and the uniqueness of it.
Well, and so many big box restaurants come here, but they quickly find out that you can't run it the way they do in every other city. Memphis is a very unique market, and if you don't run it like a mom and pop and treat people that come in like your neighbors, you're going to have a problem in Memphis. It really is a very personal thing. People that go to a restaurant on a regular basis, it's their restaurant. It's not your restaurant anymore.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty good about passing guests along, too. I know Patrick and Denny at Majestic will send the Canadians over. I'll send the Irish over to see them. So we're pretty good about cross-pollinating and sending people around to see each other.
And I think everybody does. You don't want to send them to a place that they're not going to like. You say, let me tell you where you need to go while you're here.
Well, before Rendezvous started adding dessert on the menu, they would send every customer for dessert down our way, and then we would send people that wanted their type of rib their way. So it's all everyone working together.
And they're unique places too. I mean, everybody's got their specialty and something that makes people go, man, you got to go to this place when you ever go to Memphis. Well, I love what you're doing, continue to do, and Lana, what you're doing with Tennessee tourism. And I think you guys just come back on a regular basis and let's sit about and talk to people about what's happening new downtown. If you know about something we need to get them on the show, just call Kathy or me, and we'll get them on the show, and just keep coming up with great ideas and keep pushing forward.
Absolutely.
Right.
What is your saying? If you don't have a seat at the table.
If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
There you go.
If you're not at the table, you are on That's.
I'll remember that. Yeah, looks like we're eating tonight, or they're eating us.
Well, I think what he means by that is, the more you're involved and working with everyone else in your community, you don't get lost. You're not on the menu. You're at the table with them.
And if you're not part of the solution, then you really are a part of the problem. And we want everybody. I mean, people love Memphis. They complain a lot, but complaining doesn't do anything. It's what can we do to solve the problems that we have? And everybody has them. I think Memphis is the only place that has problems. Go to Dallas, my hometown, Nashville. You think Nashville's got it made? The grid there is locked.
Everybody has their own unique set of issues. And Memphis is very lucky that we are a global phenomenon, that people think about this city across the world in so many different ways, in positive ways. And we need to continue to embrace that and welcome those folks here to this beautiful city.
Absolutely. The Dankos. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is great.
Thank you.
All right, that's our show for today. It'll be up on Facebook, and then later tonight up on YouTube. Check it out again if you can see the whole thing, and we'll see you next time.